What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, in today's video, we are going to be going over a move that's happening on Bitcoin that I think is going to have an effect on the rest of the market, and I wanted to let you guys know exactly what this means and how I am going about it. So, of course, with that being said, let's go ahead and let's get straight into it. So, of course, what we have been paying close attention to with Bitcoin recently has been this descending level of resistance. Now, as you can see, ever since realistically the first of the year, we have been trapped under a secondary level of resistance within our macro downtrend. And so what that means is that, again, throughout this entire, let's get rid of this for now, throughout this entire macro downtrend, we have been consolidating and trapped within a more short-term micro downtrend. And now what we've talked about, over the last few days is that if we're going to be able to even think about getting up to the macro downtrend to break this, we absolutely have to label this step number one as breaking this resistance here. We failed it on multiple occasions. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4 times, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, 10 times maybe, 9 to 10 times over the last 19 days to recapture this level. We, of course, keep knocking at its door, but we are unable to break it. And so it is extremely important that if we are going to make the move to the upside, we have to get back above this level, and it has to stop pushing us down into this very key support level. And so what we can see happening is that within the next 3 days, something is going to happen here in which we will either see the daily closes below $41,500, or we will see the break of the resistance level. And whatever happens there, I think actually has some pretty strong implications of what we can expect over the next couple weeks, possibly even the next couple months. So what we need to be looking out for right now is, well, obviously we want to see this break. But why is it important that we see this break before we see a push back down below $41,400? Well, the reason being is because, of course, we have been tracking this macro Fibonacci from, of course, our, again, swing lows to our swing highs. And now something we know is that once we start to get daily closes below the 0.618 level, which is currently at $41,400, that opens up the door and it increases the likelihood that we will push back down to the 786 level, which in this instant looks something like about, realistically, $36,000. Now, obviously, none of us want to see the price go all the way down to $36,000 because at that point, we have now set a new macro low. We have countered and invalidated the bullish divergence we've been seeing on the weekly RSIs. And from that point forward, we can see a continued fall. I mean, if we lose $36,000, that opens up the door to $32,000 to $30,000. I mean, that's still within the realm of possibilities. And so considering the fact that that is on the table and considering the fact that that is a possibility at the daily loss of the $41,418 level, this is an extremely urgent warning that you need to be paying extremely close attention to what happens in this interaction here, okay? And the moment in which we do start to lose, say $41,400, I am going to start to prepare myself mentally and physically to see that my portfolio very well could see some type of fall back to even just the downside of this wedge, which could look like a push down towards $38,000. But do remember, even though we are in a descending wedge, and likelihood is this will have a bullish resolution at some point, the moment that we do come back to set this new macro low, that puts us in the ballpark to, even if we do see this breakout to the top side over here, we could still see that fall back down to some of these lower $36,000 to even $32,000 levels. And of course, no one wants to see the price fall another 20+% on Bitcoin, because that could have 30, 40, 50% implications on some of our other altcoins. So right now, of course, today's video isn't to try to tell you what's going to happen. I'm not a fortune teller, obviously. I don't have a crystal ball. It's simply to just tell you what's within the realm of possibilities, evaluate the realm of possibilities, and then tell you what the result of each one of these outcomes is. Now, in the event in which we do see a break to the upside here over the next 48 hours, I am expecting that we may see some type of push back up towards, our macro trend line, which, of course, at that point, I mean, do we see a breakout? Do we see this turn into some type of W-shaped recovery? Sure, we very well could be. So at that point, I'm not really going to get too excited if we get this break here. It definitely is a great first step, but my more mass accumulationary plans do come in once we break the more macro trend line. And so my personal recommendation is we definitely need to be on the lookout and hoping, realistically spreading hopium here, hoping that we see this break of the downward sloping micro trend. But at the end of the day, I really won't be getting too excited until we were to come up and break the macro trend, which of course did start way back in November. And now, of course, we need to look into the indicators. We need to see what do the indicators say Is it looking bullish? Is it looking bearish? Well, personally speaking, what we can see on the daily RSI is that we are running into our macro resistance right now. Now, what that tells us is that if we were to see the break from here, I think it would be much easier for us to see the break of the macro trend line on the price due to the fact that we wouldn't have this more long-term bearish weight sitting on top of us. We see a break here. We no longer have this selling pressure from the RSI sitting on top of us. And I think that opens up the door to see that break and make that much easier. So that is extremely bullish, but it comes down to simply, do we get the break of the RSI? Do we get the break of the price? Because if not, likelihood is we see the RSI roll into deep oversold territory, and then we start to see more of a continuation to the downside for the price, which of course will not be good. I mean, that will not be beneficial to the rest of the market. Looking at something like the MACD, we are still in bullish territory, and so that definitely says that we have room to the upside, right? I mean, we're still under our flat line. We're still in the negative plane here, and we are seeing the blue line above the orange line right now. And that is a great setup for us to be able to see a continuation back to the upside here with some pretty extensive growth if we are able to see that breakout. Basically saying that if we are able to see this breakout here, there definitely is again still the possibility of more continuous growth to the upside, which is extremely important in terms of getting us out and seeing some type of more macro bullish divergence. Now, last but not least, looking at our stock RSI, let's get this pulled up. One thing that I did pick up on is that on the daily stock RSI, we are seeing a bit of a bearish cross right now. We saw it happen a little ways back here. But if we do look at the 4-hour stock RSI, we are working our way up still. Now, what that tells us is that since there is a bit of a contradiction there, it says that in the short term, we may be able to see a continuation to the upside, which does look like the price be able to work its way out below this micro downtrend or from below this micro downtrend. But more in the long term, we can expect that maybe we see a breakout, a pullback, and then once this resets itself, we can see a continuation to the upside in coordination with the rest of our indicators. Now, of course, that's totally speculative. It really just comes down to the simple idea, are we able to break the micro trend line or are we not? If we're able to, many indicators say that we are, it is very possible for us to see a push or even a breakout from the macro trend. But if we lose this $41,418 level, it is starting to look a little bit worse for us that we may revisit the bottom side of our channel, setting a new macro low, which is not a good thing. We don't want to be setting lower lows. That is not an uptrend, and that is going to be very hard to, work our way back from, in my opinion, okay? So with that being said, that is just the warning for the day. I'm never here to spread doomium. I'm never really here to spread hopium. I'm just giving my honest analysis on what I'm seeing, and of course, I hope you guys do appreciate that. Of course, if you do, you can always simply let me know by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you are new. And I'll see you next time. Peace.